Everyone, welcome to Software Freedom Day, coming to you from Accra, Ghana. This Software Freedom Day is being hosted by Linux Accra User Group and Kofi Annan Center of Excellence in ICT, Advanced Information Technology Institute. We have been organizing this Software Freedom Day for a number of years, but this is a novelty for us because for the first time we are organizing it virtually. Of course, we all know there's a global pandemic, COVID, and of course that is why it has been decided that it's better not to bring people together in a great event, which might just lead to the spread of the disease. And of course, this showcases free and open source software in a different dimension. So what is free and open source software? Free and open source software is a software that you are free to copy, to modify, and to pass it on. Most of the software that we know is not like that. Very often I tell people when we meet together, this is the first time we are doing globally, virtually, online, that when we copy software, proprietary software, when you are not allowed to do that, that one is criminal because this is not allowed. You are not permitted to do that. But free and open source software, you are free to copy it. You are free to modify it. Of course, the prime example of free and open source software is Linux. It's why we're a Linux user group and we promote not just Linux, but free and open source software. Of course, a lot of you may be using the Firefox browser. It's another example of free and open source software. And I could go on and on and on. But that's not my purpose today. We have so many segments coming up which will tell us more about free and open source software, which will give us more details on what it's about. Our Linux user group, like I said, has been hosting this for a number of years. And I think it's been very successful in telling people about free and open source software. But this year we have to do it virtually, and you can all just stay in with us, I hope, for the next hour. and learn something about free and open source software, the fact that all you have to do is go to the net and download it, and you have no problem with it, and share it with others. So this is what we have for you. Please stay with us and enjoy more on free and open source software.
Hello everybody, welcome to another welcome to Software Freedom Day. Hello to the regulars, our visitors, and our friends from the world over. Thank you for the opportunity. Open source software, as has been said, has been leading a lot of revolution. In the light of the recent world challenge, which is the COVID disease pandemic, there has been, true to its nature, several efforts inspired through open source movements and open source activities that has helped to contribute efforts in combating or dealing with this pandemic. Several efforts has been done to gather and document these various contributions inspired or led by open source activities and software. The literature as it exists now has the various contributions categorized, among others, as follows. So there are what we call APIs for the application developers. These are APIs that allows you to be able to integrate data tracking solutions on the outbreak to your website. And this effort helps with various countries and organizations providing information to help ease the panic among the populace in the worldwide and a country and county and town levels. There have also been several efforts and platforms that has been made to call for projects and ideas, to gather ideas on how to tackle the pandemic. There are also several open source solutions that falls under what we call the contact tracing, and there are various flavors of these solutions that help people to be able to do the contact tracing. Some of them are being used by individuals, some of them are using about content. And then as the word has been used once too many, there is the daily several open source tools and applications to help us to deal with our daily life activities as we come to terms with the new norms. The other aspect has been the several open source solutions, software solutions in the area of medical services to help to gather either patient management information systems or to help gather several information that institutions and public and private health institutions use in managing this pandemic. The last category among others that I want to talk about is on the various research contributions that open source is making in the area of research as far as this pandemic is concerned. On the area of APIs, there are several examples that we can talk about. So there is a Corona Tracker API from the Expo Dev 07. There's the COVID 2019 developed by Nutafat, which is available worldwide, which is an API for traffic tracking COVID outbreak in an area. There's also the we can also talk about the COVID-19 GraphQL API developed by Ryan Litzkock, which is also an API for tracking the COVID-19 thing. In Spain, there are also several developers, and then the big boys have also not been left out. So Apple and Google have also deployed their exposure notification API that helps people have incorporated into other applications to help people to judge their level of exposure to API. So you're able to gather the level of exposure to people who have the pandemic. In the area of medical service, especially in small middle-income countries and poor countries, there have been several efforts. So there's the epidemic models that has been developed by Robert Rafflin, and there's also GNU Help, which is a hospital information management system that helps to be able to track patient information and to be able to provide the state-of-the-art bioinformatics and clinical genetics analysis tools. We can also talk about Norway, which is a booking and patient system for drive-through virology testing. So this is an appointment system that was deployed in Hungary that allows people to book for testing, to get tested for the pandemic. OpenMRS, which has been deployed in Africa for a long time, has not been left out. There is also the Open Data Kits solution, which was used for primarily for data collection, that has been expanded to in these times to be able to help combat the diseases. So people are using to do contact tracing in countries like Nigeria and Malawi. There are people who have extended it to be able to track people with the wearing of masks, etc., etc. Another big one is the SOMA, which was also has been an open source solution in Africa for some time. This is the Surveillance Outbreak and Response Management Analysis System, which is an open source mobile health system that processes disease control and outbreak management procedures in addition to surveillance. So this it helps institutions to be able to carry on the surveillance activity as far as infectious disease or pandemics are concerned. And all these are tools that has been inspired by open source solution helping to combat the disease. Very closely to the software is also the various data sets and analytic tools that has been inspired in a spirit of free and open source and knowledge sharing. So various countries have contributed data sets that is helping researchers to be able to use these informations to combat the pandemic. Further in the area of research, a key activity in fighting virus diseases and this pandemic is what we call the gene sequencing, trying to get the characteristics or trying to trace how the spread of these virus diseases. And these diseases really usually spread by mutating. Okay, so they spread by making copies of each other, and sometimes when they spread, making copies of each other through their spread, they in the gene sequence they are what we call like quote unquote mistakes, so they mutate, and then we can use these mutations to be able to help to track how far a disease is spreading. And in the era of this research, gene sequences and analysis, open source has towered. So there's the genomic tool for gene sequencing, trying to that has lowered the barrier for several research laboratories to be able to do this gene sequencing, to be able to track the nature of diseases and thereby use it to guess. When you compare the changes in a spatial area, you're able to find out how far the disease or track the disease is spreading. There's also the Genesis 5, which is an intuitive scalable genome exploration open source tool for variants generated from high throughput sequence projects. So all in the genomic areas, these several open source tools have also lowered the barrier for countries in especially in middle income and small and middle income countries to also contribute their effort towards the research. And in recent times, the University of Ghana um, announced that they have successfully been able to do the sequence the novel coronavirus, and a lot of the tools that they use to be able to do that is the open source tools. So open source has helped. It's contributing software, and also the spirit of open source has helped to be able to inspire the sharing of data and data sets and research materials that is helping combat the diseases. In our daily life, there are several open source tools that is helping governments and institutions to offer distance education in this period of limited movement. Thank you very much. What can we do without open source?
Hi everyone, my name is Angela Novia TV and I'm a member of OpenStreetMap Ghana. I'm here to talk to you about OpenStreetMap, the map that saves lives. It was founded in July. I currently working tirelessly to help map those areas, and mapping these areas helps people to know where people are and to help them faster, and also it makes gives them information on where they can settle when they come to give aid to these people. Who uses this data? Almost everyone, and these are some of the people that uses our data most of the time. And if you're pumped by the impact that we've made so far, you can also help us join the community. And it's very simple. We use three elements: node, way, and area. So this diagram, this picture shows a simple area that is mapped in OSM. So this tiny bus here is called a bus stop, and the name of this bus stop is called School Junction. And this long tube here is the way that shows that there's a road in this area, and this polygon states that there is a building on this land. So what can you add to this map data? Every single thing that exists on the ground permanently can be added on this map data. Anything, and there are more than this that you can add to this map data. So how can you add it? We have a lot of softwares that you can use. Some advanced ones like JOSM. They are very interactive and easy to use. We have mobile applications, OSM and OSM Tracker, Maps.me. And the wonderful thing about this mobile apps is that you can easily add anything, notes, ways, and it's very easy to add all this things to the map, and is offline. You don't need internet to be able to access this map so far as you have a GPS enabled phone. Um, we have a very beautiful chapter in Ghana called OpenStreetMap, which comprises of volunteers that are very passionate about making the world a bigger place, a better place. And over the years, we've done a lot of projects. The most recent one is Open Cities Africa. We all know that Accra is very prone to flood when we come to when we are in the rainy season. So, OpenStreetMap volunteers were tasked to map these areas, to make MMDAs, researchers, aid providers be able to know how to help people in these areas. And this polygon over here is Alubushi, and we were tasked to map this place in Akute Mantu. Within a few months, we were able to map all of the points of interest, buildings, roads, and etc. in this place. And it's such a very beautiful map considering how empty it was, and we're able to fill this. And if you are a researcher, you find very useful data here for beautiful data visualization. I do that all the time. So how can you start? Very simple. We have these links that you can use to start to learn how to use the map, to learn how to add data to the map, and etc. Join us, don't go away. We have our Telegram group. You can follow us on Twitter at OSM Ghana. If you have any question, if you have any query, don't hesitate to talk to us. Thank you very much. Enjoy your day.
Hi and welcome to my presentation on FOSS evangelism, and let's talk about FOSS. Let's speak FOSS. My name is Enoch and I'm an open source evangelist, and I'm with the Linus Accra users group here in Accra. Mostly you will see flaws for free and open source software. Free and open source, just open source software, they virtually trying to reflect or refer to the same thing at least, and it's all talking about the openness, the freedom, to the 4 levels of freedom, which I'll tell you. But quickly, before I jump into details, let's look at what comes into people's mind when they hear the word open source, the perception. These are not virtually, should I say virtually? Maybe these are myths. These are not the reality. They are the opposite. Some say open source is poor, is not secure, there is no money involved in free and open source or doing open source stuff, which is actually the opposite of what free and open source software gives you. Now, so let's quickly talk about why free and open source software is important. Now we talk about the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. When you look at these goals, and there is this motto behind it, that leaving no one behind. Now, before the SDGs, free and open source software have never left anyone behind because of the inclusion community of practice, where everyone has a global playing field to play and think tangle with stuff. So it's a diverse community. It's not just about the software in free and open source software, but the community is important because it's human beings who write the codes, who write the documentation, and who promote and create awareness, like we are doing today on Software Freedom Day. And that is core to each free and open source software and community. So there is no vendor lock-in in free and open source software. You are free to go grab, download, install, and use it. And with free and open source software, 95% of computer users will stop being pirates. Let's take this scenario in Ghana here, for example. A lot of people seem to be interested in proprietary commercial software, but we have less budget or are not able to afford, then here lies the case. You still want to use it, then you have to pirate. Piracy is a crime. You are stealing, and then you could be charged for it if you're in a jurisdiction that the software developer, the company, that commercial player can easily grab you. Everyone uses FOSS, from Facebook, Google, Amazon, to whoever, and we all use free and open software. I use it. Maybe the possibility that microwave, the phone you are using, is running a free and open source library or something in the background is highly possible. Maybe the website you are accessing right now, you run a free and open source, it could be WordPress and Drupal. So FOSS is all about freedom and freedom and freedom. So when we talk about freedom in free and open source, we are talking basically about 4 levels of freedom. Computing, we count from 0. So we say, yeah, level 0 is the freedom for you to run it. Yeah, you can run it. The freedom to study this software, share it. You get the software like Firefox. You are not restricted to not to share with your friends. It's something that is for everyone. So yeah, you are free to share, and then you are able to improve. That is how come if you you have an open source software, and then you see that the functionalities that are with it by default are not useful or need an extended feature, maybe plugins, extensions coming. So these 4 levels of freedom is what we promote and advocate. That yeah, with free and open source, so you should be able to run, study it, and share, and then be able to improve this software as well. Now, when I tell people about free and open source software, just yesterday when we printed a small shirt for this celebration in Accra here with the I Speak FOSS Fluently tag on it. Someone saw it and was like, oh, what is FOSS? What is this FOSS about? I asked this person, are you a developer? He says no. Do you know about LibreOffice? He says no. But telling people about FOSS, there are several approaches. One interesting approach I use mostly is there is no one who doesn't use VLC. There is no other VLC. There is Firefox. There's Wikipedia. Wikipedia is a community of practice. The entire Wikipedia runs on free and open source software. The media wiki, WordPress. Maybe the WordPress for your organization is the website for your organization is running on WordPress. Maybe that WordPress is running on an Apache server. You might not know the technical details. QGIS here for GIS, OBS. This program you are watching right now is being streamed to you using OBS, and there is no other software compared to OBS in this time where everybody is restricted and streaming from whatever place. It could be a religious place, fun place, gamers use OBS a lot. So free and open source software is about the freedom for you to read. There is never an advertisement within VLC. Have you seen that? You don't pay for VLC, and VLC can play as much as many music or media files that you have. LibreOffice, LibreOffice Writer can be compared to commercial software. Use it for almost everything that you need. Linux, which is our name is Linus Accra User Group, of course. The Linux kernel is the foundation of a lot of Linux distribution, from Ubuntu to Arch to Slack and so on, Fedora and so on and so forth. So even your Android, if you use Android, yeah, the base is a modified version of the Linux kernel. So you could see the power of free and open source software, from somebody's time, somebody's knowledge, somebody's time to just devote and write a documentation, create awareness, could make a lot of impact, as we are doing on this day as we celebrate Software Freedom Day. I would like to stop here, and then since we are joining virtually and there is no time to spend on this for a longer period. So yeah, for today, enjoy, and happy Software Freedom Day, and let the force be with us. Thank you.
Hello everyone, this is Kevin Rifle. This video is an overview of Allegiance OS, which is my distribution of Linux that is Slackware based, 64-bit, and multi-lib out of the box. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm just going to go ahead and show you from the beginning here what the installation looks like when you boot up. This is the CD that you're going to be going into. This is a virtual machine that I'm running it in. So I'm going to skip the longer parts, but basically I'm just pressing enter for almost all of this. Here I'm going to do setup. Now mine is already set up with swap and partition, so I'm just going to go straight to set this up. There's my swap. Don't want to check for bad blocks. I'm going to select my root partition right here, format it, install from CD. It also works with USB. It's hybrid. It can boot on GPT or UEFI partition based tables. Alright, and we're just going to go ahead and pause the recording for right now. Alright, so we're back. We're now generating the init.rd, the RAM disk for 5.4.65 kernel. It's going to update our font caches, and this is just going to be a little bit more of the setup that we'll do after the actual installation of this base system. This is an option for creating a USB flash memory stick for booting, but I usually skip that. This is where you install your bootloader. Simple, standard is fine. Here you don't need anything. Master boot record in this case because we're not using UEFI. GPN, this is, so we'll just do yes, configure the network, we'll just do AOS for host name, ORG. We're going to use network manager, do yes, and we can go ahead and select services in here that we want to start up automatically with the system. So usually I do cups for the print server and the network time server. I'm not interested in custom screen fonts, and this is the desktop that is installed by default. And we'll set the password for root right here. So I'm just going to make that PASS for the sake of simplicity. So now I need to actually remove the installation media. So I'm going to disconnect it and go back, and I'm just going to exit setup here. And we're going to reboot. Alright, so this is the first boot of a clean AOS install. Now this is in a virtual machine with an 18 gigabyte hard drive and 2 gigabytes of memory. AOS is successfully installed on systems with as low as 1 gigabyte of memory and still run fine. Sorry about that. Alright, so now we're going to log in as root here. Now, unlike Slackware, this is booting to a graphical interface, and we actually have a configured desktop here that looks all nice and fancy. And we get this nice greeting right here on the window as well. So we're going to go ahead and accept this GPL version 3 license. This is where we get to set up new accounts for the system. We're not limited to one. We can change between administrator, which is a sudo enabled user, and a standard user that does not have sudo rights. So we'll say, okay, we're going to create Kevin, and he's going to be administrator. And we have these different desktops that you can actually set up here. Okay, sorry about that phone ringing. And so you can choose the desktop that you want. You can also preview what it would look like in dark mode. Let's just maximize this for a little bit more clarity. So each one of these themes actually has a different dark mode that can be enabled for it. So let's just say, okay, we're going to create it with this. We'll add that user, and then we're going to do a guest account, and we'll make him standard, and we'll give him a default desktop that looks a little bit more like Windows, and we'll add that one too. Now this interface is still being developed, so not everything is done yet, but this is what it'll look like. Once you set the password, it'll just pop up a little terminal to do the password set and then close for each one. And then from here, what you're able to do is actually select the software that you want to install. Now, this just comes with a grouping of some basic stuff that you can choose. We'll just go through some ones that I know here are good options, and we'll proceed to installation. So now in here you can just select whatever you want to actually be installed. So let's say we want to do Chrome and Firefox, and continue. And here we'll take Telegram, Signal, Skype, and continue. And we'll take Clause. For text editors, I usually just use something simple. We'll take GIMP. AnyDesk and Remain are good. TeamViewer, not so much. LibreOffice is a very good one. I have not tried some of the other ones. SoftMaker is proprietary. And then I always use the Atom editor. PHPMyAdmin. Vert Manager. Okay, and VLC Media Player actually in 2.x it did not require Qt, but in 3.x it did. So both are actually available, as well as a list of other ones here. And then I always like the awesome window manager. So just if you want a window manager that's smaller and tiling or whatever, there are options here. And then if you want a firewall that's graphical, then you can do that too. So now at the end here, it'll actually give you an overview of an estimate of what you can expect as far as data consumption for the installations that you want to do. And again, this is not completed yet, so it's not actually going to go through and do the installs right now, but that is what you can do. So we're going to close this for a minute. You'll see that these files here also contained are going to cover a lot of different stuff that you might have questions about. To give you an idea of the back end, if we were to just do an AOS install latest Chrome, right? So now we're just downloading the latest version, 85.0.4183.102. I don't know who comes up with Google version numbers, but so it's already downloaded the package. It's going to convert it into the Slackware format from the RPM. Alright, so it's done. Now this script in the back end was actually written by this guy right here, so thank you very much to him. His scripts enable AOS to install latest versions of Chrome, Firefox, Vivaldi, Opera, and even Skype, I think at least one other browser as well. So now if we were to go into the internet, we will see that we now have Google Chrome installed. Oh, and actually it's not going to run in this because we're in the root account. So we're going to go ahead and create a user. So this is the backend command, AOS add user. Kevin is the name of the user. Default is the actual desktop that he's going to use, and he's an admin. Once that's created, we just need to set his password. We'll just make this pass as well. Alright, now we're just going to log out. Alright, so you can see Kevin is now an option here. I'm going to log in as Kevin. Alright, so from here you can go down and you can also do things like toggle your dark mode. So if you're in here and it's at night, or you just prefer dark mode, you can just easily switch from a menu item here to go back and forth between them. You're also not locked into a specific theme set here. If you notice how things are set up right now, we can also go in and just say, okay, we want to change it. So AOS change desktop, Kevin. We're going to do GNOME Classic just to show you the difference here. And we'll say yes. Alright, so that just logged us out real quick so it can change a few things. And now when we log back in, it's the same account. It's just set up with different icon sets, different themes, different layouts. You can see that a lot of it has changed in its appearance, but it's all the same stuff. So here again, you can go in and you can toggle your dark mode. And you have all these different files here that contain more information about the system that you might want to know, that can give you better clarity on how things are done. Again, you can do the same command again. We'll just go in and we'll change this to KDE Modern, which is like Plasma. It looks a little bit like Plasma. Log back in. And so you can tell already from here that the menu has changed. The icons as well obviously have changed. Looks considerably more like a KDE Plasma interface for those who are more keen on that. And now with your internet, you can also see that there's a web browser. Now the IRC client is installed by default just so that if you need help setting it up, there's a chat program that's installed by default that you can access. And then we're going to go ahead and start Chrome up now that we're not inside the root account. And just as a example here, we're going to go to the SourceForge page. So forge.com/projects/allegiance/OS. Alright, and there you go. So this is going to be where you can get Allegiance OS. The ISOs are all here. The version that is currently being run in this virtual machine is not in there because the graphical interface, the setup wizard, has not been completed. But once the functions are completed, then there will be a new version uploaded that has those in it. So you can keep your eyes open on this page right here, sourceforge.net /projects/allegiance/OS will take you directly to the page. So thank you everyone for your time, and I hope you enjoyed the overview. Have a good Software Freedom Day. Bye-bye.
Once again, so soon we've come to the end of Software Freedom Day. This year it has not been long, but obviously this way that we are delivering it virtually, we believe this is the best way we should spend our time for Software Freedom Day. I want to begin by this closing by thanking all Linux Accra members for how helpful they've been coming together to organize this Software Freedom Day. I want to thank Kofi Annan Center for Excellence in the ICT. They have been our great support. It's at the center that we've been meeting over the last few years. Before I continue, let me also thank Neokai for his presentation. Let me thank Seth, or should I say Enoch? Should I add any more? For his help. He's been behind a lot of the technology behind this thing. Because really, as free and open source software, it's all about technology. I also want to thank Fafali, because these days, open hardware is the next dimension. I want to thank Angela, and I also want to thank Bright, who has been playing a leading role in organizing this year's Software Freedom Day. So let me tell you a little about Linux Accra, which has been in existence since 2004. We don't have all the members around from those years, but they are still there. They are part of the community. So in fact, Linux Accra is a community. It's a community of people who are interested in free and open source software. So it began at Busy Internet, whom we have to thank. I'm not sure they still exist today, but there's now Busy, broadband provider. But they hosted us in the early years. That's where we met for the first time. And of course, soon after that, we started holding Software Freedom Days, which we want to say has continued until this day. So what about you getting in touch with us? Because perhaps some of you, your interest has been whetted, you are now very interested. First and foremost, our website is linuxaccra.org. Linux, Linux, Accra, ACCRA.org, O-R-G. So get to that website and you'll find out a bit about what is happening with us today. Again, you might want to you are really interested. You want to get in touch. You want to install Linux. You want to get some of the things we are doing. You want to know more. Well, you can email us at info@linuxaccra.org. info@linuxaccra.org. So I think on this note, I can bring our proceedings to a close. I hope it has been exciting. I hope it has been interesting. I hope you've been introduced to a totally new world, free and open source software. Thank you very much.